Hey guys, let's go ahead and unpack the intercultural interview I did. I chose to do this interview with my boyfriend Eduardo. We are different culturally. I grew up obviously as a white woman in a uh, suburban landscape, and he grew up as a Hispanic man and a more urban uh, landscape. And so there were some challenges that this did present to me as a communicator. Some of the things he spoke about they're difficult, and it's kind of hard to listen to someone that you care about talk about hard things. So he talked about things like gang violence, race riots in his neighborhood as a small child. He told a story about one time his dad had to turn off all the lights, turn off the TV, shut the blinds, lock all the doors while there were race riots marching up and down his neighborhood. He's also lost some close loved ones. And so I overcame, this challenge just by listening. I allowed him to pour out any and all feelings that he had, remembering those times and remembering that the interview wasn't about me and my discomfort, but it was about learning and understanding more about where he came from. Another challenge, though, was that I had to reword the questions a few times, and I'm not sure if it was just at my lack of ability to make the questions that were written make sense to him, or if it's because he's bilingual and he speaks both English and Spanish and thinks in two languages, which kind of blows my mind, or if it's just because he's my boyfriend and he felt like he had to give me really good answers to make me look good. But I just reworded the questions, and eventually we got to the point, and he was able to understand what kind of answers we were looking for. I did have assumptions before this encounter. Some assumptions, I think where I live, there's an acceptance of Hispanic culture just because there's people from all different kinds of Hispanic countries living in California. And so some assumptions I had was that he was going to be very family oriented and have a very strong work ethic. And then just kind of from hanging out with his family a little bit, I assumed that there was some pretty deep loss going on there. And my assumptions were confirmed for the most part. For most of the questions that I asked, family, we always kept coming back to family, family, family. His family clearly means a lot to him, and they all have strong work ethics, and they work really hard to do what they have to do to provide for their families. He only has positive things to say about his parents, which I think is awesome because, as children of parents, sometimes it's really easy to think of all the things that they've done wrong. But he didn't bring any of that up. He only talked about the positive things with his parents. He's also the oldest in his family. He has two younger sisters and a little brother. And so he spent a fair amount of time looking out for his siblings and helping contribute financially so that his younger siblings had what they needed, even if it meant he didn't get to go do fun things. I did practice a lot of empathy during this situation. He talks about things that I can't imagine, that I haven't had to go through. Talking about hard times that he and his family have gone through. When he was 15 years old, he lost a cousin to gang violence. He's lost grandparents. He's lost friends. He had to actively avoid gangs when he was older, and he had to help his siblings avoid them as well. And so those aren't things that I have had any experience with, have no idea what that is like. And so I practice empathy just by listening and asking him more questions about his feelings. And even though I can't speak to my experience on those things, they have to be difficult things to go through, right? Like they can't be pleasant. So I would say things like, that must have been really hard, or I'm really sorry you had to go through that, or tell me more about what that was like. I also listened with the intention of trying to understand how him being Hispanic was different than how I was raised. I came to this interview with an intention to learn more and understand more. And I know we all have assumptions, but I didn't want to have assumptions. I tried to just come as blank slate as I could to understand. There were some stumbling blocks during this interview. Like I said, he's got several experiences I can't relate to. There were some things he spoke about that I have no real basis of understanding for, besides what I see on TV. I didn't grow up in a gang territory like he did, so I had to ask more questions about what that was like. There weren't race riots at my high school, so I don't know what that was like. He grew up going to a Catholic church, so I asked him to describe what that was like, because I've only been, maybe once for someone else. So I don't really know what that experience was like, going to mass early in the mornings on Sundays. He also has siblings in a large family, which is something I don't relate with because I don't have any siblings, and it's really just my parents and my grandparents. So again, asked a lot of questions to understand what that must have been like, and just listened really intently to see what I could glean from that. What I learned about myself from this interview, I learned that I picked a wonderful person for a boyfriend. But on a more serious note, I learned that I am lucky in the sense that I haven't really experience a loss of a loved one like many people have and like he has. And I've taken for granted the fact that I was raised in a safe environment. There weren't gangs in my immediate vicinity. I never had to avoid joining them or endure race riots at my high school. But I realized talking to him that this is a part of some people's daily reality. I also learned that I am jealous of those who grew up in households like he did, where everyone is together a lot of the time. It's a complete household. I come from a broken home. When I was an older teenager, my parents split. And so I have a little pang of jealousy when he talks about just all the togetherness and the fun times that his family had, because I might have those memories as a small child, but as I got older, they weren't really there. And so I think I assumed going into this that most people had experiences growing up like I did, relatively safe environment, parents who were there, even if maybe they weren't together. And I thought that all of the gang issues and race issues were just things that you saw on TV. And so I think what I learned most about this interview is that I need to not assume things about other people's stories, and that I really just need to be willing to be empathetic and to listen so that I can learn more.